Over its 5 generations and 14 model years, with a 30-year hiatus in the middle, the GTO became a performance icon. And even though not all goats are goats, as seen below, they all have a spacious parking spot in modern automotive history. What is GTO? For those of you who aren't really sure about this iconic masterpiece, let us introduce you to the all-time favorite GTO. The name, which was DeLorean's idea, was inspired by the Ferrari 250 GTO, the successful race car. It is an Italian abbreviation for Gran Turismo Omologato, Grand Tourer Homologated, which means officially certified for racing in the Grand Tourer class. The Pontiac GTO was never certified as a Grand Tourer race car. The Pontiac GTO is an automobile that was manufactured by American automaker Pontiac from 1963 to 1974 for the 1964 to 1974 model years, and by GM's subsidiary Holden in Australia for the 2004 to 2006 model years. The first generation of the GTO is credited as popularizing the muscle car market segment in the 1960s. The Pontiac GTO is considered by some to have started the trend, with all 4 domestic automakers offering a variety of competing models. For the 1964-1965 model years, the GTO was an optional package on the intermediate-sized Pontiac Le Mans. The 1964 GTO vehicle identification number started with 82, while the 1965 GTO VIN started with 237. The GTO became a separate model from 1966 to 1971, VIN 242. It became an optional package again for the 1972 and 1973 Intermediate Le Mans. For 1974, the GTO was an optional trim package on the compact-size Ventura. If you want to know all about the 10 years of GTO 1964 to 1974 and have the information on all the best cars, then stay tuned till the end of the video. Number 10. 1964 Pontiac Le Mans. When John DeLorean requested approval from GM's higher management for the 389 in the first GTO, executives estimated it would only sell a few thousand vehicles. They were incorrect by a factor of 6, as the fresh verve in the Tempest Le Mans series made for an exhilarating and enticing sports coupe. The division's advertising theme, "The GTO is not for everyone," sparked interest, as did several well-placed and surreptitiously modified magazine road tests. When prospective purchasers saw the 3 glistening 2-barrel tri-power carbs atop the 389, DeLorean knew they'd be sold. As a result, a legend was formed. Number 9. 1965 The Tempest. The good times continued in 1965, but with even greater styling thanks to the addition of a new double-decker headlight and dual grille design. For 1965, performance increased, with the basic 4BBL 389 producing 335 horsepower and the optional Tri-Power 389 producing 360 horsepower. With the GTO's enormous popularity, competitors began to emerge and enter their new class of automobiles that the GTO had created, known as muscle cars. The total number of GTOs sold in 1965 more than doubled from 1964, totaling 75,352. This could be one of the most beautiful GTOs ever sold, with its vertically stacked headlights and wraparound taillights with horizontal chrome ribs. Inside, a redesigned instrument cluster moved vital gauges closer to the driver's line of sight, while engineers discovered an additional 10 horsepower in the basic 389 V8. This is also the year that the GTO gained popularity in popular culture. The song GTO by Ronnie and the Daytonas peaked at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100, and Pontiac started selling GTO-themed goods. Sales more than doubled in the first year, and competitors began to appear. The weapons race has begun. 8. 1966 Pontiac Model 242. For maybe the first time, Pontiac sold the 1966 GTO as a separate model, rather than as a trim package on the Tempest Le Mans. The 66 was given a more iconic Coke bottle design by stylists, with a somewhat tunneled back window and more curved fenders. The inside featured GM's new Strato bucket seats with optional head supports, the better to beat the driver's skull on when smoking the goat's tires. Pontiac didn't change much under the hood, sticking with the same 389 V8 and transmission options. The manufacturer didn't have to. The 1966 model year sold the most GTOs of any year. Number 7. 1967 hardtop convertible sports coupe. The G.T.O's Origin engine, the 6.5-liter, 389 CI V8, was unavailable for the first full year. This also spelled the end of the much-touted tri-power arrangement with 3 two-barrel carburetors. Instead, the G.T.O received a bored-out version of the 389 with 400 cubic inches of displacement and 3 alternative tunes, including an economy arrangement with a 2-barrel carburetor. This was also the first complete model year that the Ram air configuration with working hood-mounted air extractors was available. On the outside, the last year before the new-look 68s hit the streets, alterations were restricted to the grille and tail lamps. Number 6. 1968 G.T.O hardtop coupe. From 1968 through 1972, GM's A-body midsize automobiles may have been among the best-looking American cars of the modern era. The G.T.O upped the ante even further, with concealed headlamps and a body-color Endura front bumper. Engineers added 15 horsepower to the base 400 V8 and tweaked the Ram Air package for even better performance under the hood. The interiors was in changeover, with new upholstery for the Strato bucket seats sitting across from a lightly cushioned dash that still had the ignition switch in the control box. 5. 1970 Judge. Every GM division took advantage of the automaker's decision to lift the prohibition on big block engines in mid-sized cars earlier this year. The G.T.O featured the division's 455 V8 as a hefty available engine at Pontiac. This year, Pontiac also dropped their economy-tuned 400 by 2-barrel carb motor. Outside, the GOAT ditched the elegant hidden lighting option in favor of 4 individual headlamp nacelles wrapped by the Endura nose. However, popular enthusiasm in muscle vehicles were beginning to wane, and while the G.T.O sold well, the numbers were beginning to fall. Number 4. 1971 Pontiac G.T.O. This model year had a new front end and larger hood extractors, giving the GOAT a more appealing and aggressive appearance. However, in order to prepare for unleaded fuel, GM reduced compression rates across the board for all engines. As a result, the basic 400 V8 in the G.T.O went from 350 to 300 horsepower, while the optional 455 suffered a comparable drop. Furthermore, Pontiac dropped the Ram Air Performance package from the G.T.O, and while the inclusion of a high-output 455 helped soften the blow, it was evident that the muscle car landscape was shifting. Number 3. 1972 Le Mans. Stricter federal emissions rules, greater insurance costs for muscle vehicles, and a crushing United Auto Workers union strike in 1971 all took their toll on GM by the time the 72s were released. The G.T.O was relegated from its own model line to a Le Mans option package. Furthermore, any Le Mans could be outfitted with the G.T.O's Endura front end and twin hood scoops. The 400 and 455 were still available, but Pontiac also offered the big engines throughout the entire Le Mans line, which meant purchasers didn't have to spend for the G.T.O package to obtain the performance, and sales data indicated that they had worked it out. Number 2. 1973 Le Mans. The debut of the new Colonnade hardtop body, which preserved the previous generation's 112-inch wheelbase but gained 4 inches to overall length, was the big news for G.T.O in 1973. New federal low-speed crash rules gave the G.T.O massive chrome front bumpers that were unsightly in comparison to the Endura bumpers on prior versions. The G.T.O was available with the 6.6-liter 400 cubic inch and 7.5-liter 455 cubic inch V8 engines. But the Firebird Trans Am was quickly becoming Pontiac's performance flagship, while other consumers preferred the formal-roofed Grand Prix and Euro-influenced Grand Am. For the year, GOAT sales totaled less than 5,000, a low point for the model. 1. 1974 Ventura. The Ventura-based G.T.O received little love from Pontiac fans, but it was a return to the company's roots. A huge engine, in this case a 5.7-liter V8, in a tiny car, Pontiac's version of the X-Body Compact. As a result, it was a post-OPEC muscle car, with dimensions just a smidgen smaller than the original and comparable performance. A functional Trans Am-style shaker hood scoop, dual exhaust, and tricolor G.T.O callouts were the only external alterations to the Ventura, coupe, or hatchback. Sales increased by nearly 50% over 1973, but Pontiac performance buyers preferred Trans Am. At the end of 1974, the G.T.O fell into slumber. This was all about 10 years of the G.T.O 1964 to 1974, and all the information that you could possibly need to know about. What are your thoughts on it? Let us know in the comment box below. And if you like this video, then don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Make sure you share it with your friends before calling it a day.